Go live. Hello everybody, welcome to the Sandro Linux community podcast. Welcome the people watching the stream. Right now we're not actually recording, so I need to start that. So please bear with me for a moment while I actually start the recording. Okay, so hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux community podcast. It is the 29th of December, so it's nearly the new year, and that means that we have quite a bit of tech news from the past week. I don't know how that means that, but I suppose Christmas and stuff happened, so yeah, we have stuff to cover, and let's just get into it. Hello, Pigus. I see that you sent an emoji in the chat. A reaction.
Hi there.
Yeah, so the first story we're going to cover today, not related to the story in the title, kind of related, but it's on both platforms actually. So on both Android and iOS, Microsoft Edge is getting a Copilot update. So this brings Copilot on these platforms into line with the desktop version. So now it apparently has plugin support. So this is already a thing on the desktop version of Copilot. However, now they're bringing it over to the mobile devices with Microsoft Edge. However, clearly they aren't totally just doing this on, Android and iOS. They are giving a small bit of preferential treatment to Android, at least temporarily. So Android is getting the Copilot app, and apparently so far they have not announced the iOS version of this app. However, I'm sure it will be coming in the future. But of course, Microsoft do prioritize more Android because of their devices, their mobile devices running Android, the ones that they've actually made with their software UI. And of course, Microsoft make other Android apps, such as their Microsoft Launcher, and all of those Microsoft all the other Microsoft apps, obviously. But we'll just have to wait and see when this Apple Apple devices get Copilot as a dedicated application, because right now it is just integrated in Edge. However, you don't get the kind of standalone experience of Copilot. I'm not really sure how many people need this standalone app, but I suppose if you want to not have to have Edge installed on your device, then maybe this might be a better application to have, because it's just purely Microsoft Copilot. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? I have kind of cycled between the news, the Android news, and the AI news, so we were kind of covering a bit of both categories. Although I'm going to go back to the AI news a bit later, after we've covered all of the Android stuff. Okay, so no thoughts from either of you. So
That's cool.
you think it's cool, the Copilot, or what? So
I mean, it's good because it's been available on the desktop for a while now, right?
yeah, yep, it has.
Yeah.
Isn't it
Hasn't
mainly?
it been a
Oh,
year almost? No, I don't know.
yeah, it's not been a year yet, I don't think, unless my timekeeping is a bit out. But yeah, it's been around
Mhm.
for a bit now, and it's been on Windows, of course, not coming over to Mac OS or Linux. It's only really a web app for people who aren't, on Windows, I guess. But of course, they're bringing over the dedicated app experience to the Android and iOS users. And we'll just have to wait and see when the iOS version comes, I guess.
Mhm. Now you get more like transparent, like same experience on Edge, on mobile devices too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the difference is going to be between Copilot on
Yeah.
the web versus Copilot as an app, because I don't think there's really going to be much, or of a difference, and therefore, is it really worth downloading a dedicated app just for Copilot when you could just, bookmark the Copilot website and then just do it
Yeah.
like that? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you don't want a Microsoft app on your device, then installing Copilot might not be a good idea for your privacy, because then Microsoft have access to all that, plus whatever you're putting into the AI. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next story is coming from Japan. Well, not the story itself, but as in not the article itself, but the story, I guess. So apparently in Japan, Google and Apple may have to kind of allow third-party app stores. So Japan is apparently planning legislation to make Apple and Google allow third-party app stores on iOS and Android as long as they respect user privacy and security. Now, of course, I imagine these companies will try and appeal, will try and kind of stop this, maybe legally, or maybe they'll try and just circumvent it in some way, find some sort of loophole or something. But, of course, they really don't want to allow third party app stores. I mean, Google have done for quite a while, although, of course, we've seen with some of the payments they've made to some third party, potential third party app store developers to kind of pay them to just not make the app store. That Google aren't, that Apple aren't alone in this kind of anti competitive behavior of trying to shut off third party app stores, because Google have also been trying to do that. However, Google with Android have always allowed slightly more openness when it comes to app stores. I mean, you can install APKs from third party sources. So, yeah, overall, it depends, whether you're on iOS or Android, whether you can use external app stores. But now Japan apparently want to change that in their market, I guess. Have you got any thoughts, Piggers? I mean, I don't think this will affect that many people outside of Japan, but we've seen some similar stuff from some other countries' governments as well.
Yeah, I mean the EU has had several like laws enforced to like remove the anti-competitiveness and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've
So it's
been.
cool. Like, yeah, it's it's cool to see like more countries do the same.
Yeah, because Japan are taking a slightly harder line stance on this, I feel. Because if they actually legislate to make sure that they have to have third party app stores, if they can do that slightly quicker than the EU, yeah. Yeah, if they can follow the kind of
Mm.
EU's lead on it and potentially, actually force support for third party app stores when it comes to Apple, yeah, that would be really good for Japanese customers, I guess.
Mhm.
I mean, have you heard much more about the EU trying to force Apple to allow third party app stores in the EU?
N- No,
Yeah, I remember hearing that story. Wasn't it like a month back now or something? Like a few months
Mm-hmm.
back now? Yeah. And yeah, I haven't really heard much of it since. So maybe we'll probably hear about more about this in the future. However, for now, uh, we're probably not going to see third-party app stores in on iPhone until sometime in the future, I guess. Although, of course, there was always those. There was stuff like Alt Store that tried to use, developer licenses, like
Oh
developer
yeah.
signing to try and allow people to use third-party app stores, but that was a bit of a loophole and wasn't really, that practical for everyday users, and they did face some problems with that. So yeah, overall, it's probably better just to be allowed to use third party stores instead of having to go through all of the rigmarole of trying to get a developer kind of paying. Well, didn't you have to pay to be to get like the Apple developer stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could sign your you could sign stuff so you could actually run it on your iPhone temporarily. However, that is a lot of hassle, and everyday users, of course, aren't really gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on to the iPhone news here. So this is ironically coming from Android Authority. So Apple will apparently be resuming selling Series 9 watches as well as the Ultra 2 watches until until January the 12th, 2024, when a decision from the US Customs will decide what happens. So, apparently, the US Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has granted an interim uh, stay on the sales and import ban imposed on the Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2. So apparently, you'll be able to buy these until January the 12th, when there'll be a decision made on this lawsuit, this patent suit, which has affected Apple. Now, of course, if you're not in the US, this doesn't really affect you as much, but we'll just have to see what happens here for the US customers. And yeah, missing holiday season, like when people could be buying last minute Christmas presents. I mean, that probably wasn't great for Apple. However, I wonder how much this will affect their bottom line, but I'm not totally sure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Pigus? Do you have any
I don't
thoughts?
have much to say about it now.
No, yeah, we covered this story last week with the actual ban happening. Like the actual, the stopping of sales of these watches. However, now, of course, you can now buy these watches again, at least temporarily. Until, yeah, something happens. Now, moving on to the next iPhone story here. So, Kaspersky has revealed a previously unknown hardware, quote unquote, feature exploited in iPhone attacks. So, Kaspersky's global research and analysis team has exposed a previously unknown feature in iPhones that allowed malware to bypass hardware based memory protection. So, this is a pretty big exploit to find. And yeah, if this has affected iOS devices for at least quite a while. And yeah, of course, because iPhones are such a big kind of platform. There are a lot of iPhones out there that could have been exploited using these vulnerabilities. And yeah, overall, it's good to see Kaspersky reporting these hardware problems which, lead to these attacks, I guess. Like these hardware features that lead to these attacks. However, of course, because of Apple having such a closed ecosystem, it is quite hard to find some of these exploits before they are already being used by attackers to, take, exploit iPhones. So yeah, overall, it would be better if iPhones were slightly more open, because then maybe auditing their security would be a bit easier. What do you think, Piers? Hello, hello, hello. Any thoughts?
No.
Okay, so moving on to the next story. So now we're in the Android section. So the leaked Nothing Phone 2A price apparently positions it, according to Android police, as a serious Pixel 7a competitor. So apparently the price will be around €400. So it'll be a bit less than that, according to a leak. So this does place the Nothing Phone 2A at a price point where it would be very competitive with the Pixel. And of course, the Pixel is one of the biggest budget phones out there. So seeing some competition to it is, of course, a good thing. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how what the kind of specs of this phone will be like. Of course, we're seeing some vague outlines here, with there being potentially an 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage model, as well as a 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage model being available. However, we don't really know much beyond that when it comes to the leaks, and of course, we'll just have to wait and see what Nothing do here. What do you think, Pigus, or Farmer Josh?
I think because Nothing Phone, the company, they're a pretty new company, right?
Yeah, it was started by Carl Pei, who was already quite well known in the tech space because he was the founder of OnePlus. However, they are quite a new company, and they've only released a couple phones so far. So yeah, a relatively new company, although their first two phones have been quite popular. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on them. Like what they are doing is kind of interesting. And seeing like now how it competes with Pixel's budget phones, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's always good to see more competition in the budget smartphone space because, of course, you often don't really want to buy the top end flagship, but you also do want good specs. So this kind of these more mid-range phones are pretty cool, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm still using a OnePlus Nord. So I hope that will last me a while until, I get a new phone, I guess. But so far, I've been pretty happy with my OnePlus Nord, because it's lasted quite a while at this point. And yeah, it's a pretty decent phone. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. It's already up on screen for you guys on the YouTube stream. So Nubia Red Magic Pro 9 is now up for pre-orders. So if you want to get this phone in any country that isn't China, then you will have to wait a bit for it, because now they're doing some international pre-orders. However, it's already been launched in China, but, for global consumers, they will have to wait a small bit. However, you can, pre-order it right now. So if you like the look of the specs, and it does look like a pretty cool looking phone, and you want to take advantage of some of the promotions you can see here, then you can pre-order it now. Historically, I haven't come across this brand in a while, Nubia. However, I think they are mainly a brand in mainland China, because, they overall don't really have that many phones out here in the West. However, personally, I haven't come across them too much, but I don't know about other people. Have you come across them much, Pigus?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this company before.
Yeah, I've heard of them only in the context of like phones from mainland China. So maybe they're trying to have more of a global reach. Maybe they're trying to, take on the global markets. However, we'll just have to wait and see how this goes over with, non-Chinese consumers, because, it looks like a pretty cool phone. However, whether the price point will be right for most people for the specs, I can't really judge that right this second. But, of course, it's cool to see more phones which you can buy. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. Google Maps. The driving mode in Google Maps could be killed off soon in favor of Google Assistant, according to some people who've analyzed the APK files for upcoming Google Maps beta releases. And apparently in version 14.52 of the Google app, they could notice some strings related to driving, the driving mode, and then being taken out. However, we can't be totally sure right now if Google Maps driving mode will kind of be axed, or whether this is just, some internal thing that Google have put into their code, and they didn't actually, it's just a plan, and they didn't actually intend to do it. However, we'll just have to wait and see what Google does with this, and whether, this does actually come to be the truth, and whether Google does actually just get rid of driving mode in favor of Google Assistant. And I'd also be curious how, how people will respond to this. What do you think, Pigus? I don't use Google Maps. Do you use Google Maps?
Yeah, no. I do know, like, in the past when I did use it, I've only, like, accidentally entered that mode.
Yeah, it's really easy to enter driving mode in Google Maps.
I'm like, I didn't intend to do that.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, take a left, take a right, and it's like, what? Yeah. Yeah, you sometimes don't mean to go into that mode, and then you end up with it giving you directions to somewhere that you don't need directions. Anyway. Moving on to the next story here. Apple is apparently... why is it still in the notes? I will remove it. That's a previous week's story. Let's move right along to the gaming news here. So apparently Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick might be leaving the company soon. So he's been involved in a number of controversies with Activision Blizzard, which has in general been marred with a lot of controversy over the past few years. And of course, Activision Blizzard have been acquired by Microsoft. So that is one thing to keep in mind. He is no longer the CEO of a independent company. It is actually now a subsidiary of Microsoft. So that he might see it as the time for him to resign, maybe to kind of just get out of, the Activision Blizzard company and maybe pursue some different things, given, the kind of scandals that Blizzard have been in, Activision Blizzard have been in, and yeah, overall, the company culture that people claim he has fostered being quite toxic. He might just want to get away from the company at this point. And of course, he's been around for quite a long time. So it will be interesting to see the direction that Activision Blizzard takes once he steps down. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what is going to happen. Do you have any thoughts, Piggers?
No.
Okay, so moving on to the next story here. So here's a UK story. So it's a UK ISP story. So only one this week, and that is the Mayor of London is pondering having a single free Wi-Fi network across the City of London. Not the City of London, not that small area called the City of London. The entire City of London. So of course Sadiq Khan is apparently, investigating this possibility via a consultation. And of course, people will maybe voice their concerns to do with the security of this open access Wi-Fi network. But of course, it's kind of a nice idea, allowing people to connect to the internet, all around the City of London. I imagine it will be much more of a thing in the centre, and not so much in, Greater London in general. However, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this consultation, whether they decide to go ahead with this and decide to actually roll out a broader open access Wi-Fi network instead of just trialing it in these individual locations, like they have been previously. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis, about this idea of a big Wi-Fi network in London?
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting if Sadiq Khan can go ahead with this. Of course, I'm not getting into politics here at all, but it would be interesting to see what happens with this Wi-Fi network. Let's just hope it's a secure network and nothing happens. Given that the City of London has a lot of residents and a lot of people who might be willing to try and hack, an open access network, I could imagine things going slightly wrong, slightly awry. So maybe they'll have to watch that one. Yeah.
They just need make a good firewall.
Yes. Yeah, and who knows what kind of restrictions would be placed on this internet connection? I don't know. Anyway. Now, moving on to the Linux news here. So, Ubuntu 23.04 support has reached EOL. So it's reaching the end of life on January the 25th, 2024. So if you're using that release, if you are using the Lunar Lobster release, then it's probably time to move on to a newer release of Ubuntu, or move distro, or whatever you plan to do. because you're no longer gonna be getting security updates, so it's a good idea to move away soonish.
Dang it. One more thing to do.
One more, yeah, because you're definitely running that version of Ubuntu.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Arbian Linux is apparently now available for Raspberry Pi 5 computers. So, in fact, I got a Raspberry Pi 5 computer at Christmas. So, I've been playing around with that a bit, playing around with i3 a bit, and the Raspberry distro, of course, based on Debian. However, apparently, you can now use Arbian Linux. So, this is a Debian based distro, and yeah, it's now available for the Pi 5 with support for Cinnamon, GNOME, XFCE, KDE Plasma, and i3. So those are all the big desktop environments and window managers. So that's pretty cool to see them supporting all sorts of different desktop environments and window managers. So yeah. I'm not really sure what's so unique about this distro. I don't personally see anything that really stands out to me and makes me think, wow, I should definitely install this over Raspberry. But, maybe you have Piggus. I mean, do you see anything
No.
that's really cool about this? Or is it just branding? I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens with this distro, because personally I can't see at current moment any interesting features of it. However, I guess it's a release of a different distro for the Raspberry Pi. So we'll just have to see what cool features are added to it in the future. And yeah, I suppose it's just another distro for the Raspberry Pi.
I mean, Armbian is a more broader distro compared to like Raspbian, which is made for the Raspberry Pi.
So
Uh,
but how is Arbian that different? Like, is there any specifics that you could point to?
Not really, like it supports more than just the Raspberry Pi. It supports different ARM, RISC-V.
But surely you want one optimized for the Raspberry Pi, right? I mean, I don't know.
I suppose I.
Yeah, I don't really see much point in using this distro, but it's a cool option, I guess, if you want that on your Raspberry Pi. You can now get it on the Pi 5. That was recently released. So yeah.
Yeah, I just run the regular Debian on my.
Yeah. Do you run like Raspberry or what do you
No,
run?
Debian.
Debian, alright.
You have like a release for ARM based.
Why do you use Debian over Raspberry, for example?
It's more minimal.
It's more
It's
minimal.
directly from Debian because
Mm-hmm.
ARM, Raspberry and stuff like that are just based on Debian with other stuff added to it.
Yeah. Yeah. However,
So it isn't as bloated.
Mm-hmm. Although I would say the Raspberry Pi Core version is not that blown. Anyway, let's get on to the next story here. So apparently Darktable 4.6 open source raw image editor has been released. So this is a cool looking image editor if you're dealing with stuff in the raw format. And apparently it now adds support for a number of new digital cameras and giving some new features. So it apparently now improves the speed of exporting JPEG at 2000 and BNW TIFF images, and increases image display speed in the map view by 20%, 25%, which I'm sure would make sense if you actually use this software. However, for me, I'm not really sure. But yeah, this is a cool new release of this piece of software. So if you need an image editor for raw stuff, then yeah, I suppose this is a good option if you're on Linux. Do you have any thoughts?
I need this.
You need this. Why?
I haven't heard about this before.
What use case do you have for this?
You open up my raw images files.
Do you have a lot of them?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Cool.
Useful tool, at least, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. The crypto news. Only one story this week. So India is apparently blocking Binance and Kraken in India. So the government, have been cracking down on crypto exchanges, and now they are actually blocking them, saying that Binance, Kraken, Qcoin, is that how you say it? Qcoin? I don't know. Anyway, let's not get stuck up on pronunciation here. Yeah, so basically these exchanges, they have labelled as operating illegally in the country without complying with anti-money laundering legislation, and apparently they've asked the IT ministry to block their websites. Now, of course, if you are in India, you could use a VPN to bypass these blocks. However, banks will not allow you to withdraw or put money into these exchanges anymore. And of course, you'll no longer be able to legally register for these exchanges. But yeah, so if you are in India, this isn't good for you. If you're using these exchanges, it will be quite hard to get your money off them. However, of course, we've seen a lot of crackdowns from governments throughout the past, I would say, 2 years or so when it comes to crypto. And, this is just the Indian government, I guess, enforcing some of their regulation and blocking some of the big exchanges over, which, they view as not complying with regulation. However, how much of this is really just they want to block these exchanges and they'll take any reason to do so? Maybe that's it. I'm not here to analyze the politics of it, but yeah, it's not great to see India blocking these exchanges. I mean, if you have money on these exchanges, it's not good. Being blocked from your funds. I'm guessing there's no way of withdrawing if the website is blocked. I mean, do you have any thoughts, Pigus? That's an interesting thought. Okay, so so let's continue on to the next story. Before we do so, are you trying out Darktable now, Pigus?
Yeah.
Looks interesting. What is the difference between Light Table and Dark Room?
Or?
Look, you see at the top, on the top right, Matt.
I don't have an image right now, so...
You see, I'm sorry for you guys watching the stream, because, you can't see all of the stuff going on the Discord. I guess you could check it out. If you come on over to sandronex.com/Discord, you can join the chat. However, and, look at this stream. However, if you're not there, then, you can't see it because I haven't got my OBS configured to, output that. However, we'll get back to the actual stories just in a minute. So, in AI news, the New York Times is apparently suing OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement. So they claim that OpenAI copied millions of times articles to train the language models that power ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. So they are they're suing, these companies because of these alleged infringements. So we'll have to see how this case goes. I mean, I could see this being appealed if Microsoft loses. And yeah, I guess right now is the time to see what the courts do when it comes to AI and ownership. Whether, they'll actually take these copyright infringement cases seriously, or whether they'll just be thrown out. We'll have to see jurisdiction by jurisdiction what happens here. And of course, the New York Times, quite a big newspaper, with some interesting allegations here. So yeah, of course, Microsoft have been training their AI, ChatGPT, I mean, have been training their AI on a lot of articles, which may include some New York Times ones. However, it is their copyrighted material, so we'll just have to see how this case goes, I guess. What do you think, Piggy? Okay, so why don't we move on to the miscellaneous news? So Firefox 122 enters public beta testing, and it apparently has some improved translation features. So right now, I'm on 22.20. What am I saying? I'm currently on release 121. And yeah, apparently this new release will bring improved translation. It's a bit of a small feature, I guess. However, these small improvements on the browser do add up with release by release. I mean, now it's on release 122, so there's been quite a few Firefox releases in the past, and yeah, this is just another Firefox update. They happen very regularly, and it's quite a small one at that. It's no update like Proton or Quantum was to Firefox. So yeah, not really too much happening here. What do you think, Piggers? I mean, there's a bit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's nothing like special.
Yeah, apparently
about it.
The article says there's a bunch of goodies for the Android users. So apparently,
that would be a bit interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently, Firefox for Android is now reporting the OS version of Android 10 in the Firefox Android's user agent string to reduce user fingerprinting, and they are also apparently now allowing you to set the web browser as a default PDF reader, and allow you now to enable global privacy control. So that was already a feature on the DuckDuckGo browser, as well as a few other browsers such as Bromite, I think. So it's cool to see them bring it to the main Firefox browser on Android. I mean, they did face a lot of backlash when they rolled back a lot of the add-ons and brought in a new add-on ecosystem. They only really had about like 5 add-ons, and it wasn't really too great. However, they've started to actually improve the browser again, and yeah, it's cool to see, I guess. But
Cool.
yeah, But yeah, now moving on to the next story. TikTok Music could get a lossless audio option as hinted by new Apple codes. What am I talking about? New Apple codes. New app codes. By a new app code. So, apparently, TikTok Music is a streaming service. I haven't come across it much before. However, apparently they might be bringing along lossless audio to TikTok Music, which will be pretty cool for TikTok users. Of course, there's many streaming services out there that already have lossless, like Tidal and Apple Music. However, this is another service that I guess you'll be able to get that lossless quality on. And we'll just have to wait and see if it actually comes to TikTok Music. Now, moving on to the next story here. So, apparently, according to Android Police, ads will be coming to Amazon Prime Video starting in January 2024. So you'll now have to pay for apparently $3 in the US to stop them. However, this does not apply to Prime Video channel subscriptions. So I'm not personally a subscriber to Amazon Prime or Amazon Prime Video, so I don't really know about this. However, if you are a subscriber, this sucks quite a bit, given you'll now have to pay to remove ads. And yeah, that's actually quite a sizable chunk of change, $3 per month. And yeah, overall, with Prime memberships getting more expensive, and also them introducing this new fee, overall, maybe Amazon Prime is less of an attractive option now. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Why do all streaming services have to do the same thing?
Yeah, all the streaming services have been trying stuff like this. And yeah, it is starting to get irritating.
Wasn't it a few years ago that Netflix started talking about this?
Yeah, I think they introduced
everywhere.
an ad-free tier. I think they introduced an ad tier, didn't they? For a bit of a cheaper subscription. I remember that. Anyway, moving on to the next story, something slightly more positive here. First Cry, a big e-commerce platform in India for mother and baby products, is apparently having an IPO in India, and they are seeking $220 million. So it's backed by SoftBank. So SoftBank have backed a few successful ventures in the past, and yeah, it will be interesting to see whether this takes off in India, whether people are willing to buy stock of this e-commerce platform, or whether it won't be that popular with stock market traders. I mean, what do you think, Pigus? First Cry, I've never heard of it personally. I mean, it seems like a thing for the Indian market. However, they appear to be IPOing here. Sorry, what's the kind of disgruntled noise?
I don't know.
It's a bit random, I know. But yeah, so they are seeking to list on stock exchanges. So they're listing in India, I'm guessing. So it will be interesting to see how this goes, whether this IPO is successful or whether it's not. Now moving on.
Let's buy some stocks here.
Yes, the Indian the Indian what you call again, baby stuff e-commerce platform. That sounds like a great thing to be researching. Okay, so now let's move on to the next story here. After that one, so The Last of Us is the most pirated TV show of 2023. Torrent Freak usually give a this title to a certain show every year. It happens most years, and this year, as we approach the end of the year here, apparently it was The Last of Us TV show. So that's a HBO release. That was followed by The Mandalorian, still staying up there as a big pirated show, and Loki. So those are two Disney Plus titles holding the the second and third places on this ranking. And this isn't a good thing to really be. This isn't really a good list to be on, because that means that people are just pirating your shows and not paying you any money. I don't know if The Last of Us is that popular as a TV show. I mean, I know The Mandalorian was very popular, but is The Last of Us a popular show? I mean, do you guys know?
I haven't seen it. So.
Do you have any thoughts, Sandro? You haven't watched it,
I have heard of more people watching it than The Mandalorian.
Okay. Maybe it's because they're all pirated. So.
Well, kind of people I hang around, that's probably what they did.
But yeah, so let's continue on with the next story. They also sometimes talk about the most pirated TV show of like the month or whatever. However, I only really cover the big ones here. So the big one of, the entire year, according to Torrent Freak, the most pirated TV show was The Last of Us. Now, moving on to the next story here, not Xiaomi, that's a future story. Did I cover it? Did I put it in the... Yes, I did. Okay, so, Blue Sky is apparently now allowing you to view posts without an account. So it is now open to the public for viewing. However, you will still have to be invited to actually post on the platform. So it's slightly more open now. However, it's still quite closed off. You're still going to have to be invited to actually use the main instance of this. However, of course, because it is a decentralized platform, you should be able to run it by yourself if you want to. Now, we're going to have to see how this Blue Sky integrates with ActivityPub. However, it is quite interesting to see Blue Sky, being a decentralized Twitter alternative, and being another alternative to X, I guess. Now, of course, it's still going to be quite hard for most people to get onto the platform, but, at least it's slightly easier to be able to see what the platform is like. Also, I've got to add, there is a new butterfly on this logo. However, that's a bit of a minor tweak, isn't it? Anyway, moving on to a bit of more of exciting news. Apparently, Xiaomi is launching their first EV, the Xiaomi SU7. So the SU7 is apparently going to be their first EV, and apparently they announced they were going to venture into the EV space in 2021. However, they are now actually coming out with this EV, trying to compete with the Teslas and Porsches of the world with this stylish looking car. It looks very inspired by Tesla, to be honest, with the door handles and such. I mean, look at this. Actually, not really. On further inspection, not really too much. What do you say?
Almost like they ripped off Tesla a little bit.
It looks somewhat similar. It looks a bit like a Porsche as well. Um,
Yeah.
it looks a bit like a Tesla Porsche hybrid, if you get what I mean. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, that seems a bit. The back looks a bit Porsche. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll just have to wait and see what this EV is like. I mean, there have been a lot more Chinese EVs coming into the market recently. I mean, it has been quite a while for countries like Germany and the US that have, some automakers that, of course don't want to be outcompeted by these Chinese companies. And yeah, we'll just have to see how they manage to compete, or whether there'll be sanctions on companies like Xiaomi who are making, these cars outside of the US. But yeah, even Tesla.
Considering the higher percentage of Chinese EVs catching on fire, I really hope we do put sanctions on them, to be quite honest.
I mean, we'll just.
Most fire departments in the U.S. are still not equipped to deal with EV fires. So we just have to let them burn out.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, so it's like, that's something we need to work. I think we need to work on the being able to put them out when they catch on fire before we allow more on the market.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting to see more EVs on the market, but yeah, who knows what this Xiaomi model will be like. Yeah, so of course BYD are quite a big company in the Chinese automotive space. They've been expanding a bit more globally, and now apparently supplying the batteries for this thing. So, we'll just have to see how this goes, and what the kind of global, what people do globally, whether this is a success in international markets. Now, moving on to the next story here, WhatsApp on the web is apparently going to have a new dark mode, which they claim will result in less eye strain and more comfort. So, this is apparently a new color scheme that is being rolled out with a darker shade of black. So, a black. And yeah, overall, some people enjoy like a kind of pitch black experience, kind of a pitch black UI, and some people prefer a bit more of a kind of a bit of a lighter color. So there's like Discord, which isn't totally pitch black, but their dark mode is, it's somewhat popular. However, of course, if you want to reduce eye strain the most, it's probably best to have a more pitch black look. And if they can get slightly closer to that, then that would be pretty cool in my book. What do you think, Pigus? A slightly darker shade of, the color.
I'm more like, darker it is, the better.
Yeah. That's usually what I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the last story here, and then we can do other stuff. So the last story here is that apparently Microsoft has just paid $76 million for a Wisconsin pumpkin farm. So this is quite a big property here. It was apparently originally valued at $174,000. However, they made some improvements, and that price went all the way up to that valuation went all the way up to $598,000. And yeah, apparently they've just paid that much. Apparently they just paid $76 million for this pumpkin farm. So, Microsoft are clearly trying to buy up all this land and try and build this big data center that they plan to make. And they'll apparently be investing $1 billion into this project. So they'll probably be making quite a big data center spending that kind of money. So yeah, we'll just have to see how, I guess, this data center ends up shaping out. What do you guys have any thoughts?
I mean, a lot of the valuations to me seemed rather fishy, to be quite honest. For example, that same property in Oklahoma, it would it would have been valued at least $5,000 an acre, compared to the latest valuation from the county was like 1,500. So I don't know. I just hope the family didn't lose it through. I just hope they weren't threatened with eminent domain the whole time. So
I mean, how would they be threatened with eminent domain? Because it's not a state purchase, is it? Like, it's a Microsoft, right?
oh no, towns and counties can do that in the U.S. Like, say they can basically, because they would make more tax revenue off that data center being there, that would be a legitimate reason for them to offer quote unquote fair market value under eminent domain.
That is not a thing that usually happens in the UK. They will not usually just buy your
No,
property
no,
up
that's
and then say,
ridiculous.
yeah, that's not good, in my opinion. But anyway,
No, it's not. It
yeah,
is what it is there. I just hope they didn't have to fight too hard on that. They did get a large amount for that
yes,
property, so
yeah, that's way
a
above
lot.
valuation.
Make a farm somewhere.
Yeah, that is way above the valuation. So, yeah, they didn't make a lot of that. So,
Yeah.
you know, they can probably afford to buy a new farm or two with that. But anyway,
Well, and one thing I found interesting is the article you quoted there showed 407 acres being sold, but the Milwaukee Business Journal showed 420 acres on the same thing being sold. So
yeah, so who knows what the.
who knows? They may have 13 acres to keep a house on right there. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the story's misquoted the Milwaukee Business Journal. Maybe it is that full 420 acres. I'm not sure. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's it with the stories. I mean, oh yeah, Pigus. What window manager do you use? Yeah,
Right now,
yeah.
I use the compositor. It's a Hyperland.
Hyperland. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Very fancy.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. I also did you see that so do you have like NeoFetch whenever you open up your terminals?
Of course.
Yes, to show that you definitely are running Arch Linux.
Hmm.
Is that NeoFetch? Or is that a different
Yeah.
program? Alright.
It's Neofetch.
Linux is free as long as your time is worth nothing.
Hmm.
That's a fun thing to have whenever you open up your bash RC file. I suppose you use bash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just checking you don't use like ZSH or whatever.
I've been trying to use it, but yeah,
I mean,
I don't work well with it for
Well-
some reason.
what even are the practical advantages of ZSH? Also,
Like
yeah, so.
they have more tab completions and stuff.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think ZSH is a bit, I don't know. I mean, Macs use it, and you can go back to Bash if you want to on Mac, but I do prefer Bash, to be honest, because, I don't know, maybe it's just what I'm used to or whatever, but but I don't think ZSH is that much better that you really need to switch to it. Anyway.
What do you think about this quote?
If Microsoft ever does application for Linux, it means I've won. That's a Linus Torvalds quote. And yeah, that's a very interesting quote. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I guess, well, if it's proprietary software, you haven't won. Anyway, also, do you have random ones that open, or do you?
Yeah, it's just a random one.
Let's see. What's your bash RC file looking like?
It's in another file.
Right.
What is the name of that?
Also, yeah, it's probably a good idea to end the stream at this point, guys, because you cannot actually see the Discord stream, so it's a bit null and void for you guys to be listening to us talking about this. I mean, I could try and bring it up on screen. In fact, that's what I'm gonna do right this second. I'm going to move the Firefox is suddenly gonna become Discord, and that'll be fun, I guess.
Wow.
Wow, yes.
Wow.
Um, there we are.
There it is.
Look, you can see on stream now.
What was it called?
So we can see Piggus going through his configuration files here. Okay, let me see. How are you doing this?
There
Okay.
we have it.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so NeoFetch, then it says strings. Okay. Get
Just
the
a
amount of
bunch
strings
of
in list.
things.
Generate a random value from the list, and then print. Okay. Okay, so
Not
that's
so
cool.
complicated.
No, it's pretty cool, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a good time to end the stream, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Check out the Discord server, sandrolets.com/discord. You can see it on screen if you're looking on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching once again. Have a lovely new year. Have a good time. And like, subscribe, and share, of course. And yeah, overall, see you in the new year. I should have a video on Mojeek, a search engine, out soon. I've actually got the script already written up. I'm just going to record that. I've also got a script for my for a video reviewing the mobile network EE. So I will be doing that review as well. So those are two things to look forward to in the new year when it comes to my content. And yeah, so if you have any suggestions, guys, you can put it in the comments. But until the next one, goodbye. Do you guys want to sign off?
Bye. Wait.
Wait.